if our mission's to supply food and water to them, make sure everybody that is supposed to get food and water gets their portions, their rations, and goes on about their day and tries to help everybody liven up their spirits a little bit.
The relief effort is finally going strong in New Orleans. Tonight, some local soldiers are right in the middle of it.
From the air and on the ground, Mobile is playing a huge role in the rescue effort in New Orleans. That story's tonight.
And I've got a great weather forecast for you for the second half of your weekend. I'll have the details on that coming up.
You're watching Fox 10 News at 5 p.m.
Hi, everyone. I'm Renee Dials.
And I'm John Snell. Thanks for choosing Fox 10 News at 5 p.m.
Now, to some of you, this is a new face here on Fox 10 News, but to others, especially those of you from the New Orleans area, John is a familiar face. He is from our sister station, WVUE.
Fox 8, 10-2,
Yes.
and you folks have been kind enough in this week of emergency to our sister station to make room for us. So
we're glad to have you.
We appreciate your serving our New Orleans viewers and hope to get back to normal sometime.
We hope so, too. All right. The Gulf Coast-owned 711th Signal Battalion is in New Orleans tonight.
They're part of a force of 40,000 troops called in to provide relief to the victims and to help restore at least some order to the region.
Tonight, Fox 10 News reporter Shawn Thomas was with the 711th as they prepared to deploy.
A last-minute check under the hood of this soldier's Humvee, and the National Guard is ready to roll into the heart of Katrina's devastation.
This is what we do.
We've got the 711th Signal that is getting ready to deploy to New Orleans for a security mission.
While the 711th is getting ready to deploy from right here at Fort Whiting in Mobile, Alabama, into places hard hit by Hurricane Katrina, like Biloxi, Mississippi, and New Orleans, it's all too familiar scene here because they just got home from another high-profile mission in Iraq.
A lot of these soldiers have just gotten back from Iraq, fulfilling their federal mission, and since we're the National Guard, we have a dual mission, so we have a state mission and a federal.
Serving double duty can take its toll.
It is tiring, but we're definitely doing what the states paid us to do.
But more than a job, this group has a desire to help.
This is one of the things we joined the Guard to do. When we have hurricanes blow in, we help people. This isn't the first hurricane we've been activated for, but this is probably the worst.
Though they're prepared for the worst, their spirits are up so they can get the job done.
The morale seems really high. The soldiers are ready. Some of them may have family and friends that are down in Mississippi and New Orleans, so they're ready to help in whatever things we can do.
Help that is much needed. In Mobile, Shawn Thomas, Fox 10 News.
Mobile was the staging area for two other units from Alabama preparing to deploy. The 711th was joined today by the 142nd out of Decatur and the 115th based in Florence. The relief effort is finally starting to pick up steam in New Orleans. Yesterday, the food and water arrived. Today, a fleet of air-conditioned buses have taken thousands of hurricane survivors away from the squalid conditions outside the convention center. Over the past 5 days, nearly 25,000 people there have lived surrounded by trash, human excrement, and dead bodies.
Mobile has played a surprising role in those dramatic rescues we've been watching in New Orleans. Some very diligent emergency management workers have found a way to get help to survivors. The Coast Guard and other agencies have now rescued more than 10,000 people from flooded buildings and rooftops. 10,000 and counting. Dozens of them thanks to people manning the phone lines in Mobile County. This is the Emergency Operations Center, the nerve center in Mobile County for any Katrina-related emergencies. But they are so overwhelmed in New Orleans and so out of touch with the outside world that many calls were coming here to the closest place on the coast that actually had communication. In some cases, stranded people in New Orleans couldn't reach 911, but they got text messages on cell phones out to relatives scattered around the country. Frantic family members then started calling anyone they could.
My heart's just breaking for the people in New Orleans.
So Kim Mitchell at the EOC started working the phone lines herself until she found somebody in New Orleans who could direct rescue operations. Mitchell has set up a special phone line in Mobile to let rescue teams know where to find stranded hurricane victims.
But this is if you know for a fact they are there and you have talked with them, because they're trying to call out on their cell phones, but they can't get a line.
For many thousands of people, help finally is coming from the air.
Got it. They got the water.
And from a very persistent young woman in Mobile.
Thankfully, everyone that we have called or emailed Art about has been rescued.
Her sister, Kim and her sister, worked the phone lines for hours to make that happen. If you know the address, and you've got to know the specific spot or the address where someone is stranded, here's how you can get help to them. Email kmitchell@mcema.net, or you can call 251-377-1672. A local doctor is also helping to save lives in New Orleans. Dr. John Harati is a physician with the U.S. Coast Guard Aviation Training Center in Mobile. Even after they're rescued, the ordeal is not always over for the victims. After days spent in the sweltering heat with no food, no water, many of the survivors need medical care, and quickly. That's where Dr. Harati comes in. From the ground, he coordinates the efforts, working to find hospitals for all of those people. The problem is there are just so many victims.
Too many people, not enough time to haul them. You know, just too many. I remember one of the pilots said to me, he says, "Doc, there's just so many of them out there. We've been so busy just trying to figure out where people go." And hearing the stories and telling and listening to the radio what these people are bringing back and what they're hauling, it's just unbelievable. I mean, this is images of, you know, the tsunami in third world countries and Middle East. I mean, unbelievable. We've even had air crews having to use their emergency axes to come in and hack through the attics to get people out. I mean, that's the extent of what they've been doing. It's incredible. There's so many heroes out there.
It's not easy finding hospitals for all the victims, since there is really, when you think about it, no medical care available in New Orleans. Dr. Harati has been sending patients as far west as Lafayette, Louisiana, and as far east as Mobile.
Well, there's also the problem of finding housing for Hurricane Katrina evacuees. That's why the government has chartered 3 Carnival Cruise Line ships, including the Mobile-based Holiday. Today, vacationers boarded the final cruise to sail out of Mobile for the next 6 months. When it returns on Thursday, the Holiday will provide shelter for some 1,800 people left homeless by the hurricane. During that time, the ship should remain docked in the port city. Eglin Air Force Base will also be taking in hurricane evacuees. The base in Florida, in the Florida Panhandle, is in the process of setting up a tent city. It should house about 1,000 people seeking refuge from storm-ravaged Louisiana and Mississippi.
President Bush is already making plans to head back to the Gulf Coast after visiting damaged areas in Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana just yesterday. The White House is planning another trip for Monday. The president has scrapped plans for a Labor Day speech in Maryland in favor of stops in undisclosed parts of the storm-affected region. And tomorrow, Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice will get her first up-close and personal look at the damage when she visits the Gulf Coast.
When a killer hurricane is headed your way, would you step on a boat?
Craig Smith has the story of a woman who decided that was the best place to be.
The boat rumbles. You hear the wind.
As Katrina rolled in, Evelyn Nelson and her family decided almost 80 feet of solid steel shrimp boat looked a lot safer than a small wooden house.
Still, if you go aground, the wind, all you can do is hang on. You won't get washed away. You ain't gonna go. As long as you stay inside, you will not be hurt.
Evelyn and her brother felt their parents could not take the long, tough road trip an evacuation would require. So about 13 sisters, brothers, aunts, and uncles climbed onto the shrimp boat where Evelyn's brother and husband work. Then they took the boat near some trees they would bet their lives on.
And there's trees falling. And my mother say, well, what are we going to do if that tree falls? Y'all tied to that tree. What are we going to do? And my brother say, oh, that's okay. We've tied off to that one over there. And then the boats behind us broke loose, and they were going out.
So what made the difference between these boats over there and this boat right here? The answer is rope. Enough rope to float to treetop level without the mooring line snapping. Evelyn's husband, brother, and 2 other men stayed in the wheelhouse, making sure the boat was riding out the storm, while Evelyn and everyone else waited on a lower deck. When the storm passed, they found her mother's home wrecked, along with every place else in a neighborhood of family and neighbors they treated like family. So for now, the boat owner is letting Evelyn and her husband live on the boat that may have saved their lives. The accommodations are nice compared to a shelter, but she's still a little uncomfortable because she can't do all she would like to help others displaced by the storm.
I've been a Red Cross disaster volunteer all my life. And this is the first time that I'm not able to help my friends and the people that I know. Because I'm a disaster victim myself this time.
In Bayou La Battery, Craig Smith, Fox 10 News.
Very fortunate disaster victim, though.
You know, it reminds me of just how many police officers and firefighters and others haven't seen their homes in New Orleans or had to be evacuated from them. You forget that a lot of the people we turn to are the victims.
Exactly. Now, what the hurricane and the floodwaters didn't destroy, the flames just might.
Fires still burning out of control in New Orleans. That story up next. Also,
horrified. That's the first word that comes to my mind.
5 days after Katrina came ashore, some residents of the Mississippi Gulf Coast are finally returning to find what they have left.
Hurricane Katrina has left its mark on the Gulf Coast.
We just expected about the same thing that we would have gotten from Ivan, but needless to say, it wasn't that way.
But you're sick.
I am. I'm alive, and I have my family.
As our communities rebuild, we'll continue to bring you the most current information on Fox 10 News Storm Tracker. Turn to Fox 10 News Storm Tracker for the latest weather conditions. You're watching Fox 10 News at 5 p.m.
Fires continue to burn out of control in New Orleans tonight, adding to the sense of collapse in the city. Firefighters have been on the scene of many of those fires, but they can't fight the flames because there is simply no water pressure. Many Mississippi Gulf Coast residents are just now returning for the first time to see a trail of destruction left behind by Katrina.
They're arriving to find pieces of their former homes and beginning the long road to recovery. Fox 10 News reporter Denise Hurlicka has one family's story of survival from Biloxi.
Martin Diaz is rummaging through what's left of his home for the first time. Diaz was here yesterday, but too emotional to stay. Now he's picking up the pieces of his life, overwhelmed by it all.
Horrified. That's the first word that comes to my mind. Upset. And just feeling sorry for everybody who lost everything.
His family moved here 9 months ago from Chicago. They wanted to start a new business and life on the Gulf Coast. Now everything he's worked for is left in ruins.
Well, in Chicago, we never experienced anything. No earthquakes, no natural disasters, no major tragedies. And then we moved to Biloxi and, you know, this happened, so.
The Diaz family lost everything. Their home annihilated. But what they find through the rubble is a reminder of what they do have. Each other.
That's all I care about, my family. As long as everybody was fine. Everybody in my family was fine. Nobody got hurt. So we're thankful for that. We're thankful that we're still alive.
It would be easy for Diaz to pick up his family and move, but his heart is still here in Biloxi and with the people who desperately need help.
We're planning to stay. We're planning to rebuild, definitely. We're not going to give up. We came here to do something. We're going to finish it. We're going to succeed.
Those families with anything left can still be considered the lucky ones. When all is told, Katrina may have claimed thousands of lives. The death toll in Mississippi now stands at 147. This as search and rescue crews continue to pull bodies from the rubble. In Louisiana, the number of dead remains unknown. Possibly hundreds of bodies have yet to be recovered from the flooding and destruction.
Check us out on the web, fox10tv.com, powered by Thompson Computer Services.
Well, we certainly enjoyed a beautiful day here along the Gulf Coast. We had some sunshine here today, as well as lower humidity levels. Right now, still on, well, I guess you could call it hot at 91 degrees in Crestview, 91 in Pensacola, 92 at Brooklyn, and 91 at Mobile. And looking at a temperature in Evergreen of 90 degrees. But we'll take a look at those dew points. Now, this is what's saving us from having heat indices or feel-like temperatures into the 100s here today. It's our dew point. Our dew point temperature is down into the 60s, which is fairly comfortable when we're talking beginning of September and the end of August here. So again, looking at some fairly comfortable readings out there as far as the moisture content out there in our air. And again, as I mentioned, it's keeping us from getting well into the 100s here today with the heat index levels. We're at a feel-like temperature in Mobile of 94. It feels like 97 at Brooklyn. Feels like 95 in Pensacola. 96 is what it feels like in Crestview, and 94 is the feel-like temperature in Evergreen. Now looking at the wide view of the Fox 10 News Storm Tracker, a little bit of a disturbance working its way through Arkansas and Missouri right now, but that should remain well off to our north. We have high pressure basically dominating our weather, so that's going to continue to mean some good weather conditions as we head into tomorrow. A little bit of a trough trying to play a little bit of a role in our forecast for Labor Day. It may bring us a shower or two, but I'm not looking at any widespread rain events here over the next couple of days. So in other words, enjoy the sunshine, the lower humidities, and yeah, maybe even some slightly cooler temperatures tomorrow. We are keeping an eye on this trough here off to the southeast of us. Right now, it's just producing some showers and thunderstorms across the Florida Peninsula. Out there in the tropics, not much happening. At least the good news is here that none of this is headed in our direction. We have Tropical Storm Maria getting close to hurricane strength, a weak disturbance down to the right along the intertropical convergence zone, and another wave coming off the coast of Africa, none of which should be affecting us anytime soon. Here's the latest on Tropical Storm Maria, and we can kiss her goodbye because she's going to track on off to the north and then to the northeast and be extra tropical in a couple days. Right now, she has winds of 70 miles per hour. We don't need to worry about her. That puts a smile on my face. Looking at those temperatures out there tonight, low humidity levels. We'll see mostly clear skies. Inland temperatures 66 degrees. Coastal areas around 75 with the light north wind. And for tomorrow, it'll be dry and pleasant. Looking at partly cloudy skies by the afternoon. Inland temperatures 92. Coastal areas around 90 degrees. And northeast winds will be right around 5 to 10 miles per hour. As we head into the next 7 days, we'll be expecting temperatures gradually getting down into the upper 80s, which is about where we should be for this time of year, into the upper 80s, that is. And look at those overnight lows. You might even be able to leave the windows open and turn the AC off. Guys?
I'm so ready for normal weather.
Well, it's wonderful for the, if you think the people returning home, the last thing they need in New Orleans is rain, of course, and hopefully they'll get the same weather there, but you know, it'll be hot, but at least people returning to their homes won't have to deal with rain.
That's good news.
All right, well, historic relics of Mississippi's storied past took a beating from Hurricane Katrina.
The home of Confederate President Jefferson Davis is no more. Fox 10 News reporter Jeff Barker takes you to Beauvoir.
Biloxi is rich in history, rich in heritage. We've seen so many homes, historic mansions destroyed. None more famous or more historic than Beauvoir. This was the home of Jefferson Davis, President of the Confederacy, built in 1854, before the Civil War. This was his final home. He came here to retire and to die, and now it is nothing more than historic bricks on top of a slab. Also in this yard, huge trees that have just been uprooted. I mean, miles and miles of these trees that are just hundreds and hundreds of years old. In fact, reading through the literature and on the internet, you find out this is the reason why Jefferson Davis picked this estate, was because of these beautiful trees. Perhaps appropriate that they too were destroyed the same day that the home was destroyed. It's all part of Biloxi's heritage and history, as Biloxi now has to start a new history and a new heritage after Katrina. Back to you.
That is sad and disappointing for a lot of folks. We actually had calls from people who were asking about that particular
my photographer and I drove down 110, near the Beau Rivage the other day, and took the right turn. And later in the day, it occurred to me, Paul, Was the mansion there? No, I didn't see it. And, you know,
That's
little
right.
tiny pieces.
Gone. Nothing hardly left. Well, when the chips are down, the local racing community pitches in.
Mobile's own Rick Crawford racing to provide relief to victims of Katrina.
If it affects your day, we'll be watching. Fox 10 News Storm Tracker.
It comes from the heart. We loaded up 20,000 pounds of water. It's 500 cases of water, and our truck's maxed out.
Mobile's own Rick Crawford taking time out of his busy NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series schedule to do his part for hurricane relief. What his part turned out to be was filling up the Circle Bar team hauler with 20,000 pounds of water to be distributed all along the Gulf Coast.
The message we're trying to send is don't wait around. Let's help these human beings and Americans survive this tragedy they're in, and let's help right now.
That's exactly what Rick Crawford and his Circle Bar race team did this morning. The 18-wheel team hauler arrived from North Carolina at the Red Cross building in downtown Mobile at just after 10 a.m. Helping out was a no-brainer to the NASCAR Craftsman truck driver after the images he's been seeing.
You open up the Charlotte Observer the other day and see a person sitting in a lawn chair that's passed away because he didn't have a drink of water. And he could have survived with a drink of water, and it's like, we got to get some down there to him.
Upon his arrival, Red Cross volunteers lined up. It didn't take long for the human chain to form. Crawford, a part of the assembly line, 500 cases of water from hand to hand. It wasn't the boxes that were heavy, but rather people's hearts.
These are Americans. They need help. They need help right now. And it's nothing that you can plan to help them. You just got to get out there and help them do what you can. And this is, you know, everybody needs water and everybody needs supplies. And so this was the best thing that we thought that we could get to bring down here, and our heart goes out to them.
Coming up tonight at 9, Mobile International Speedway, also a place for hurricane relief today. Also, Alabama and Auburn football kick off within the next couple hours.
The world goes on.
It does.
All right.
All right. We'll be right back. That's our news for now. We thank you for joining us, and we thank you for being here with us, John.
Thanks for having us in your home. We'll be back at 9.